to you, interacting with you, through the community, through being a pastor, and a lot of the things that concern us never make it to the daily media or the bigger people who are now trying their best to get concerned about us and to come into our communities and provide coverage. So tonight, if you have a comment or question, you can reach us at 858-251-6111, or you may go and godradio1.com, follow us on Facebook. I'm here with Dr. Leonard Thompson, our partner in the media, and always excited that he helps makes this an interesting time, and we do have some interesting things to talk about this week. So Dr. Thompson, I don't know where, I'd like to start off by first expressing my great concern over the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and this is just hard to wrap your mind around that after we've been through George Floyd and Bernard Brooks and all of these young men that have been killed by the police, the young brother in Chicago that was walking down the street, shot in the back 9 times on camera, the brother that was killed 48 hours before Mr. Blake was shot in Lafayette, Louisiana. I believe he was shot 11 times in convenience store situation. And it appears that the police have adopted an attitude of, we don't care how much you protest, what you complain about, the Justice Department is not going to do anything. The president is winking at, let's make America white again. And so we're just going to do what we want to. And last night is a perfect example of this kind of telegraph message, where on Monday evening, this couple in St. Louis, the McCloskeys, were on talking about saving the neighborhoods and the danger. If you might recall, they have been indicted for presenting firearms at a group of protesters who were passing their home, not stopping at their home. And he was with the rifle, and she had pointing a handgun at people. If that had been a black person or a black couple doing that, they would have been shot on the spot. And yet the Republican National Committee puts them on as kind of a validating message to people that what we did is right, and you need to protect your neighborhood because they're coming at your suburbs. And what happens last night? 17-year-old white boy with a long rifle kills 2 protesters. He then, as we understand, put the rifle over his shoulder, walked with his hands up, and the police walked right by him. The arrest didn't follow until later. So obviously, we understand now that the internet was lit up with all kinds of right-wing conversation. There were other people there that were armed. And we believe very strongly, I believe strongly, that there's an effort afoot to push us over the edge with the killing of these people so that when we respond with violence, they're going to be justified in bringing out the hardware. Because do be advised that black people in America are not armed as white people in America are armed. And one of the things I love about the Indians when I look at some of the old Westerns is that whenever they surrendered and decided to do a treaty, they always buried half of their weapons where they could go back to them. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, they had to go back and look them up again. So we got a real issue here. We're going to talk in more detail about this. We know what's happened to the NRA, but that doesn't stop what's going on. And I'm going to shed some light again on what the weaponizing of San Diego County is like, since I'm sure most of us don't know. Dr. Thompson.
Well, let's just start off. You dropped a lot of nuggets. Let's start off with Brother Blake. I'm struggling with the fact that we have another police shooting. I'm struggling with the whole thing of 4 officers. The man gets up, walks around his car where there's 4 officers. Nobody's stopping. I don't see the tasers out. I don't see no tasing. And
guns pointed at his back the whole time he's walking around the car.
And it's like they're like, wait, hold up. Nobody tased him. If he was resisting arrest at that point, y'all had a clear shot of his back with the taser.
Well, it's reminiscent of the footage we saw in Atlanta at the Wendy's. The man was moving away from him. They followed him and shot him in the back
Mm-hmm.
as well and killed him. The miracle here is that Jacob Blake is alive
Yeah.
with 8 bullets in him, and his spleen and his spinal cord messed up, his gallbladder, his colon.
Now, is
Uh,
it 8 or 7 bullets?
well, they amended it and said it was 8 instead of 7, but whether it was 7 or 8, clearly holding his shirt and shooting him like that, the intent was to kill him, not to disarm him. He could have held his shirt and shot him in the leg. That would have stopped him just if you had to do it. But how does the man moving away from you, and then they come out today with some lie, the police talking about, well, he said he had a knife. Really? We
Okay.
didn't see a knife.
So what is the protocol? What is the procedure? And this is one that I would probably need an officer to answer. But when a suspect or someone that you're trying to apprehend have children in their car, what is the protocol? Because with shooting 7, 8 times, that meant that you put the children at risk also.
Well, let me just tell you from a lawyer's standpoint that the reasonable man standard for police officers is different than the reasonable man standard for civilians. A police officer, at every instance I've seen, they don't care about your children being in the car. They don't care about your wife being in the car. Let's not forget what happened to the brother that was sitting in the car with his girlfriend and the child, and the policeman in Minnesota shot him several times and killed him. And all he did was tell him that he had a permit, and he didn't go for a gun or anything because it was a traffic stop. And so they already have their minds made up when they stop you. We see here in San Diego, and we complain about it, about the curbing of people, where the cops in southeastern San Diego pull over a car and want to sit a whole family on a curve for some stop to be humiliated as people go by, only to decide later, oh, you can go. And there's no rule that says you have to be polite to a police officer. You have to be kind speaking to a police officer. But they have made it a situation where if you stand up and show me some courage, I'm going to take this from what the initial stop was to a provocation. And when I provoke you enough, now I'm going to be able to flip this script, and I'm going to get you for a felony assault because I'm going to push you to the point that you got to push back. And I said in an editorial this week that black men and women need to be re-educated as we were during the civil rights movement. In the civil rights movement, the reason the nonviolent approach of Dr. King worked was because before they went out on a demonstration, there was a body search of all the people who were participating in the protest march. And they found guns and knives and brass knuckles and billy clubs and all those things because some people were there prepared to strike back. And the thing that made it work for us as it did in India, that in spite of the dogs biting and the hose and the billy clubs, people didn't fight back. And the public rose up in righteous indignation after the walk across the bridge in which John Lewis was almost killed. And so we have to now stop thinking in terms of what we have a right to do, and we have to think in terms of what is wise to do if we're going to flip the script on this scenario. Okay, and that's a very important example. Let me just a quick caveat. I had a man come to me once at the paper. He was in El Cajon, and he went to 7-Eleven one evening to buy some cigarettes, and there was a police car there where they were taking a break, and they decided to stop him, and he got into an altercation with them, and they ended up arresting him, and he got out of it, and it was a big publicity thing. And 2 days later, at the same time of night, he's going back to the 7-Eleven to get another pack of cigarettes. And I'm saying, it's not a question of do you have a right to go, it's a question of is it wise for you to go?
Yeah. And that's the thing that that I like to say is that you can not like the fact of that you're being stopped. You could, I remember being stopped, and when the police officer came up to the car, he happened to be an African American, and I said to him, I said, "Officer, I turned because the light is not working," and he basically blew me off and said, "Well, take that up with the judge." And I said, and you sat there and you watched, the light is not working. And he said, take it up with the judge. So basically, I did my due. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So I went and set a camera out there, and I set a camera and let that. Unless you had two cars in that thing, if it was only one car, the light would not work. And I went into court and I said, I have evidence that the light was not working, and unless you have two cars, the light doesn't work. Judge said, let me see it. To see it, he said, case dismissed.
And see, that's important. I'm glad you made the observation as a black officer.
Yeah.
I had an encounter 3 or 4 years ago with a black officer, and I call his name every time I get a chance to because he's an insult to the name. His name was Johnny Cochran, and he called me, stopped me on a Memorial Day weekend. I was going back home. I had stopped to get some flowers in the morning for my wife. I had the flowers on the seat, and I forgot to put my seatbelt on. And all of a sudden, I'm in City Heights. I hear this siren behind me blowing, and I'm thinking that this car is going someplace. So I pull over to another lane, and the car pulls over, and I turn the curve, and he turns the curve. So I stop. So I'm saying, oh, it must be something going on here, so I need to get out and look at covering for the paper. So I stopped, and I started to get out the car, and he jumps out the car with his hand on his gun, and he screams at me, get back in the car. Get back in the car. Don't you know better than to get out of the car? And I'm saying, what? Then he comes up to the car and asks me, well, how old are you? Like, my age got something to do with it. And he's telling me, well, you ought to know better. And give me your license and registration. And then he comes back and said, you got a cracked windshield, right? That's it. Anything else? Whatever. I mean, obviously, this wasn't a race issue. And when I mentioned this officer to people on the force, they all knew who this fool is, and he's still there. When I filed a complaint, they sent me some trumped up excerpt from the police manual talking about officers being courteous and polite. He is the kind of person waiting to explode, doesn't care about color. And I just want us to be very clear that this is not all white police officers. This is some black officers as well, because there were black officers involved in the beating that took place up north with Rodney King.
Yeah.
Okay? And we have some very mean and vicious black officers. So we have a vicious mentality in law enforcement that is against the civilian population, as if we only exist to give them an outlet for their frustrations.
Yeah.
And I'm very concerned. I'm going to stay on this situation. And I ran the article, and I talked about them. And I'll continue to talk about this person who is a disservice to both the police department and to the community.
Yeah. And I was just saying, and just taking it back to the whole Brother Blake and the shooting out there, the thing that I'm still encouraging the people, protest is good, but when you start looting and burning, you lose the message.
And we know now that the looting and burning is not being done by the average protester. And we can't let them try to blame that, just like they try to put the blame on Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is not out there passing out kerosene or cocktail. Matter of fact, we saw in Santa Monica, we've seen in city after city, in La Mesa, we've seen the protesters grabbing the people who were trying to vandalize businesses and pulling them away from breaking into businesses. Mm-hmm. So there's a group that uses this as an excuse. We saw this in Minnesota, that the pictures of the people trying to break into businesses were not from the community. Mm-hmm. Community people didn't know who they were. Mm-hmm. And so, but yet we have, if you listen to the Republican National Convention this week, and the white folks getting up there speaking about things like how wonderful the president has been. You know, when I was a kid, I was a great comic book lover, and I really followed Superman and Wonder Woman and all those people. Mm-hmm. And they had a concept in the comic books called an alternate universe. Mm-hmm. And Kellyanne Conway was the first one to present us with an alternate truth or an alternate reality. Mm-hmm. Well, it's clear these people are living in an alternate universe because they don't seem to understand what the rest of the people in this country are going through. There is no sympathy of the 180,000 people who've died. Mm-hmm. There's no concern. You're sitting there with the president, with Mitch McConnell, who refuses to even take up the legislation to give people the checks that they need to survive. And we already saw from the first stimulus package that it made a difference in terms of lives. And this is important for us because 64% of black people in America are renters. And we're about to run into this eviction phase here. So, but these people are talking like everything is just a matter of black and people of color, and we got to get them out of the community.
Well, I want to first of all, I want to adjust your mic. I'm gonna give you this mic because they keep on saying that they can't see you.
Oh,
So we're
okay.
gonna give you that mic,
Okay.
and then we want you to turn it this way, and then
All
turn
right.
it now. Turn the mic towards you so that we
Okay.
can get you. Yeah, we want to get you right and tight.
Okay.
Now we can do that. Okay, so we're finishing up with the shooting.
Yes.
And now we get ready to go to the Republican convention.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to say this. I give kudos out to the Democrats because I just thought theirs was just a class act and they used
100%.
technology wonderfully. Now, I've been watching the Republican convention and I said, okay, so this is the first time I've seen the Republican convention and they actually have black reporters this time. Because normally you don't see black reporters at the Republican convention.
Yes.
Number one, I noticed that. Number two, I noticed the African Americans that they had smiling and speaking. And I wondered, are they still looking at the same world that we're in now?
They're in the alternate universe, and they remind me of General Benjamin O. Davis Sr. when he became a general and all the black soldiers were excited, and he went to them and told them that he was of their color but not their kind. These people who are speaking are of our color but not our kind. And the bigger tragedy than what they say is the fact that they appear to believe what they say.
Oh my goodness! Did
That's
you
the
see?
part-
Now, and this is and the ironic thing, and maybe it's just me, and maybe the Lord is going to open my eyes up. But if America for you is so great, if you want to make America great again, why are you still importing your wives?
Why are you still importing what?
Your wives. And why do we have a first lady that can barely master the language and they never question her right to be where she's at, but every time we turn around, they're always questioning people's blackness, their Bertha or whatever they want to call it. And I'm like saying, and she says, my husband cares for you. And then at the same point, he does
Well,
things that destroys families.
I think what's happened with her so far is that people understand that she really doesn't want to be there, that she's a victim just like we're victims. She's in the White House because that's where she needs to be. You remember, for the longest time, she didn't even move into the White House. For the longest time, when she traveled with him, there was never any hand-holding coming down the steps or off the plane. Yes, she probably had a sense of indebtedness. They played her immigration card. I think she's got some wealth in her own right. And I really predict that the day they lead him out of the White House, probably in handcuffs in terms of moving him, that she'll probably file for a divorce. One of the things that she was getting kudos for from last night from the people was that she seemed to have the only a sense of concern about what was happening to people. And the only one that made a reference to truth in part of her statement was in contradiction. But let's look at the laws that were violated by this president in terms of this convention.
Let's look at it.
Yeah, let's look at them. The first thing they violated was the Hatch Act.
Okay.
Okay, and the Hatch Act is very specific about government employees using government time, money, facilities, or equipment for any political purposes. Kellyanne Conway was the first one to get in trouble on that when she started making commercial statements at the beginning of the Trump administration, pushing the clothing line of Trump's daughter. And so that's when she got a wake-up call and a reminder. Here we are using the White House, which is the people's house, as the journalists are reporting, for what? Here's the man who has shut down immigration in every way he could, and now he brings 5 people in there of diverse color and lines them up and has them sworn in. Okay, the very fact that he brought them into the
Well,
White
no,
House.
no, 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 no. Hold on. But you have to say in their native garb.
Yes, they were all dressed in their
Yes.
native clothes, so you could see where people came from, and five of them. So you know, India was represented, Africa was represented, someone Latin, and someone white or Croatian or whatever they were. So here we go with bringing these people in there, having the Secretary of Homeland Security administer the oath of office. It is not supposed to be a political event. Having it done in the White House. One of the journalists made the observation that the Commandant of the Marine Corps should be tendering his resignation because he allowed the Marines to be used at the White House as a part of this staged event. That when they opened the door for Trump to come out, it was tantamount to what Vladimir Putin does in Russia when he gets ready to come speak to someone. So you got a violation there. Then you got the Secretary of State who flies all the way to Israel to stand atop the King David Hotel in Jerusalem to give his speech. And that's a play for the evangelicals, and that's a play for the Jewish voters that come over and make sure they support Trump, because that's to remind them that they moved the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem as a part of this whole orchestration that's taking place. So everything has been designed to give a distorted truth because of all it. Remember, Trump's the one that shut down the border, putting up the wall, got the kids locked up, separated from their parents, and here he is congratulating 5 people on citizenship. Well, I guess he's really congratulating them for being able to get through his maze, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to get it.
So, yeah, and I agree with you. I think that this whole week for the Republican has been a poor representation of what the Republican Party is about. I think that the Republicans, they're jumping ship. He is the first candidate that had absolutely no president speak on his behalf. You know what I'm saying? And so now it comes down to the American public. Will we buy into this alternative universe, or will we strongly speak out that enough is enough and we will never go back again?
Well, I don't want us to be distracted by Trump's antics at this point. As one person just pointed out, if Obama had done the same thing, he'd have been impeached. Well, we already impeached Trump, but he got Mitch McConnell standing there, and McConnell should not be missed because McConnell is the second leg of this destruction of democracy. Congress has passed all the bills that we need for stimulus and for care and for everything, and he locks it down on his desk, and he won't take up anything. And it looks like the way his race is going with Amy McGrath in Kentucky, that he might get reelected. So if there are 20 Senate seats that are up for election this November, we need to make sure that we get at least 10 of them so that we can flip the Senate back to a Democrat, and then Chuck Schumer can become leader of the Senate. And if we can't get rid of McConnell, at least you can sit him in a corner and shut him down. And do understand that when Biden becomes president, Kamala Harris becomes president pro tem of the Senate.
Yes.
And she becomes a tie-breaking vote, which is another position of power that is so important. And so let's not get lost with Trump to the extent that we're not registering, and we're starting a whole new campaign here today. I must kudos to our registered voters, Michael Vu, who's doing everything he can to let people know. You and I are very involved in pushing this campaign, how to vote. The governor has taken a position that the state of California will be a total absentee ballot state, and we are not in danger of being shut down because of the antics of the postmaster, because we have enough boxes, both voter pickup points and people working to offset any of that kind of stuff. And that's what we got to be focusing on, because the ballot's going to start being mailed out on October the 5th, and we want to be ready. If you in doubt, register to vote anyhow, and if it doesn't work, they'll let you know if it's a challenge. But by all means, we have got to register. So let's not get so caught up with the trumpets that are going on here, because this whole thing is a distraction. And most of us don't understand that you're seeing an alternate universe right now. When you listen to people who can tell you with a straight face, they're not concerned about a plan in terms of fighting COVID. They're not concerned about, and they get up there and say, well, he's provided PPE for everyone, and nobody, this was the biggest lie I've heard him tell, nobody who needed a ventilator didn't get one. Really? Tell that to the family of the people who died, who were sharing a ventilator or on a CPAP machine because they didn't have one. Tell that to the families who were waiting for the ventilators, but the government went and underbidded the states to take the ventilators from them and to put them in warehouses and give them to their big rich buddies.
All right. Well, we're going to get back to this. And one of the things about voting, we want people to understand when your ballot comes out, fill it out and don't wait to just say I'm going to send it by mail. Just deliver it directly to the voter registrar so that you can get it done and you there's no middleman. You take it directly there. They
got dropout. They're going to have the boxes everywhere. We're going to be listing the boxes. I think there are over 124 points that are going to be set up to make this happen, and we're going to be doing that. That you can go online and register, or you can go online if there's a question of whether or not you registered, you can go online and you can find out whether or not you registered. And if you're not, you can register online. Plus, you'll be able to register and vote right up to Election Day. But we don't want to wait for that.
Exactly.
We want to get the votes out there and get them early. Yeah. And we're going to be talking about this in more detail in the days ahead. And we want you to get stimulated. If we really like John Lewis and what he stood for and died for, let's salute him by the one thing that he was all about, the vote. Let's get out and register and vote like never before. Amen. Let's vote like we did for Obama.
Yeah. And so we're going to go take a commercial break. But when we come back, I want to talk to you about Ice Cube and the contract with Black America right here on GODRadio1.com.
Do you have a product line such as merchandise or new music? Or perhaps a special event or change in services you offer? Let us help you get the word out. Here at GODRadio1.com, you'll get the creative support and push that you need to drive customers and supporters directly to you. Our prices are competitive and may be designed to include social media campaigns and more. For detailed information about our radio advertisement campaigns, call us today at 858-251-6111, extension 505, or visit our website at GODRadio1.com. Remember, we're here for you.
The San Diego Voice in Viewpoint has a part-time position open for newspaper office assistant. This job may be perfect for you if you are detailed-oriented, have basic typing and office skills, and are proficient in Windows, Microsoft Office, Google Office Suite, with some experience in Adobe Creative Suite. This is an ideal position for a seasoned, reliable team player who is customer-friendly and looking for a steady part-time employment with an opportunity to serve the community. Job duties include providing price quotes for newspaper ads and placements, processing classifieds and legal notices, and more. Keep in mind, excellent customer service is a must. Only qualified and serious applicants needed. Pay starts at $14 an hour with Fridays off. This position will remain open until filled. If you believe this job is perfect for you, please submit your resume to the managing editor, LaTanya West, at latanya@sdvoice.info. That's LATANYA at sdvoice.info. How far are you willing to drive for savory soul food and Southern hospitality? Join the countless number of satisfied customers who have discovered Jay's Southern Cafe, the hidden jewel in Jacumba, California. Jay's Southern Cafe is widely known for dishing up soul food style cuisine that will make your mouth salivate. Everything from traditional breakfast favorites like omelets, waffles, hotcakes, eggs, and bacon, to lunch favorites like soups and salads, pulled pork, fish, chicken, and hot link sandwiches, including burgers and fries. But real soul food lovers drive from near and far to experience Chef Jay's succulent signature barbecue and scrumptious golden fried fish. Not to mention all the mouth-watering sides like cheesy mac and cheese, barbecue beans, collard greens, potato salad, coleslaw, cornbread, and more. You've got to come and experience Jay's Southern Cafe, located at 44461 Old Highway 80 in Jacumba, California. For a full list of menu items, visit jsoutherncafe.com or call 619-766-0053. Come dine at Jay's Southern Cafe, where everyone and everything we serve is special. Follow us on Facebook at Jay's Southern Cafe, breakfast, lunch, and barbecue. Or call 619-766-0053. Now you make sure you come and see us. You hear?
Due to the changing regulations of COVID-19 pandemic, please give us a call at 619-766-0053 to confirm our hours and menu for the day. Well, we're back here, right here at the desk of the editor with Dr. John Warren. And I said when we went to break, I said we wanted to get back and start talking about this contract that Ice Cube says before we give our vote, there needs to be a contract with Black America. And he said that before you give your vote, we need them to agree that they're going to truly address police reform, truly address prison reform, and truly address the prejudice that we are seeing on a daily basis. And he said a lot of times people take the black vote for granted, but we need to see mandatory bank lending processes and mandatory license of black content for the airways so that we can make sure that we're heard. A lot of times, and I don't know, Doc, we got to vote no matter what. We got to vote. But I do believe that sometimes our vote is taken for granted, but I think that our vote is taken for granted because many times there are those that get bought off. And because they get bought off, they then will I got mine, and then I'm going to be the middleman instead of saying I'm going to fight all the way to the end.
And you know, if this was any other person, any other time in our history in terms of an election where we were having old-fashioned campaigns and there was a struggle to get the nomination within the parties and to get the delegates, all of that would be good and true. But the bottom line is, as truthful as a lot of what Ice Cube says is, we cannot afford to hold up our vote when the withholding of our vote for any reason guarantees that Donald Trump will get back in.
Yeah.
We've got to understand that the Trumpeters, those people who support him in the middle America, that whole red zone, they're going to vote come hell or high water. And they hope that it rains, that it's cloudy, that anything can happen in addition to the mailboxes being moved. They're really even sacrificing their rural mail delivery when they need the boxes more than we do because they know we have the numbers to outvote them. And I would say to Ice Cube and the people listening to him that, yes, the Democratic Party has not been what it should be for black folks. The significance of this time around is that if it was not for black Democrats, that Biden would not even be on the ballot going forward, okay? It was Congressman Clyburn that made it happen. It was South Carolina that started the ball rolling. It's that same group of black women that we now know vote because they put Doug Jones in office as the Senate to fill Sessions' seat. And so these are people we know now. And today is the 100th year of the Suffrage Act of women voters, even though it didn't include black women as it should have, because if you were black, you really didn't get the vote like you should have until the Voting Rights Act. But I think it's very important that we not hold back. I think right now the most important thing in this country is getting Trump out of office, number one, getting a national plan to deal with this virus, which is killing us disproportionately, getting the resources that we need in a national approach to all of our cities and hospitals and to do the things needed to stop the myth that this is just going to poof, go away, to have someone in the White House who's not going to look at the death statistics every day and say, it is what it is. And that's Trump all the way.
Okay. So let me ask this question. And this is, and I want to say with all the things that are going on in America, I would say it is going to be one of those things. And what's wrong with Black America? Do you think at this time we will finally come together and stop fighting and tearing each other down so that we can receive results? or will this be the status quo that is us four and no more?
I don't think we're going to come together in the context that you want. Maybe in the next 60 some days, the death and suffering will make people come to understand that this is important. Too many of us have subscribed to the idea that our vote doesn't count and our vote doesn't matter. And we've been programmed with that through the 13th Amendment, taking the vote away from people who have any kind of criminal record. We've been programmed by denying people who have served time, not being able to let them vote. And some states are moving to return the vote to ex-felons at this point. But there's so many of us who don't realize that that elections have hung on a tie vote being broken, as in Virginia, when they put the names in 2 film canisters, shook them up like a couple of dice and pick one. Now, if that doesn't show that a vote is important, okay? Mm-hmm. And we had a Supreme Court case many years ago, was called the One Man, One Vote, which reaffirmed the importance of one vote. And so every vote counts. And we've got to stop buying the program. But right here, even in this community, look at what we have. We got a couple of people running for mayor, and we've got people lining up behind them like it's a popularity contest, mm-hmm. rather than coming together raising issues. We have some organizations.
Well, hold on. I don't even think that people are lining up behind them like it's a popularity contest as much as it is a job interview. It seems like some people are lining up to get position to get a job versus this is the best person for the job.
You are absolutely right, because some people have already come to the conclusion of who's going to win, and therefore that's the camp they got to be in, and it has nothing to do with the issues in terms of everybody or all of us overall. We are still in a very bad posture in San Diego. Mm-hmm. We still have people that don't take us seriously. There's some questions about how seriously members of the city council take their own community. And so we still have all of these things happening with the Republican mayor, who has handpicked some black folks that he can call on for whenever he needs to do a photo op, and who gets praised whenever he gives something that they want to them without being of concern to does what you're doing affect the rest of us. Yeah. No, we're not there yet. And I can tell you from the kind of candidates forums that are being held, I can tell you from a newspaper, people who are actually holding events and not even bothering to talk to us because they think that they stand in the driver's seat. And we're going to make a difference in terms of who gets elected.
And you know, the sad thing about it is that we're still operating like crabs in a barrel.
Yes, we are.
Instead of saying that we all should win during this time in this season. I'm excited about our partnership, Dr. Warren. I'm excited about paving great futures and what they're doing.
Yes.
I'm excited about what the 5K hip hop is doing. I'm excited about
my
that.
Brother's keeper,
my brother.
State.
Yeah, we should be at a point of learning how to celebrate, you know, what people are doing. It's like, and I use the church perspective, and it's simply this, is that we're all one body, but many members. And so I'm not trying to be a thumb when I'm a finger. You know, I'm not trying to be the mouth if I'm supposed to be an ear.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But many times in our community, we got mouths trying to be ears and ears trying to be mouth. And so we become deformed in our way of dealing with things. And because we are deformed, people don't take us serious because we're abnormal.
Well, I want to say, always give out the good kudos where they're due. You know, Black Men and Women United meet every Tuesday morning on a teleconference call. You know, and we meet, and it's for us. It's 1-720-835-5909, and I'll give the PIN number again. You can go and get it in the paper. But you've got people there, my Brother's Keeper, Paving Great Futures, 5K Hip Hop, Strike Force, all of these young people who are volunteering, who are out there every week, in the heat, putting the food together, putting it in people's cars, working the census, even as it's being done now with locations. Last week we had a scenario over at 45th and Logan. This week, Friday, is going to be at Green Cat Liquor a barbecue to make sure we get people counted for the census.
You
because
mean to tell me the green clad liquor ain't closed?
Well, you know what? I raised this question when it was brought up at our meeting, and we were assured that it's under new management and ownership, because historically, Green Cat has been an entity that ripped us off at every chance that they got. And so this represents a 360-degree turn in terms of having them come and get involved with something. But the point is that the very people who are doing this every week, or feeding people Monday, Wednesday, Friday, hot meals at noon, foods on Tuesday and Saturdays, and all of this that's being done. These are the people who are coming together talking. But there's some other people out there, they never even come near us. They all hold their little meetings and they act like they're doing something, and only God and them know what it is they're supposed to be doing.
But they're getting funding.
But they are getting funded.
And that's the sad piece, is because they're being funding. And my whole thing about it is that I never believe in hating on any organization, but there's a thing about coming together in unity. And when we do that, everybody eats at the table, not just one organization, but everybody is viably in their position, playing their role, and the body works effectively. Now, I'm going to let you have the final on this one, and then we're going to take a commercial break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about they done found the cure, who's going to be tested.
Well, you know, I just want to make an observation going forward here that we have some people doing some fantastic things, and the Voice and Viewpoint is getting ready to do a thorough examination of the money that's been given to the nonprofits in our community in terms of who got what they said they were going to do with it, and what they actually did with it. Because we had a scenario a few elections ago where an organization got over $80,000 from a particular candidate, that it was for voter registration and helping the community. And at the end of the day, they had to give back probably more than $75,000 of it because they didn't put it to use. And so we need people who are about helping the community the same way these folks are pulling these bags and putting them in cars, who are doing what they can because they care, not because a camera or a drone is there. And we're going to stay on it.
Well, we'll be right back with you. This is From the Desk of the Editor with Dr. John Warren, right here on GODRadio1.com.
The Legacy Resort and Spa is featuring something new at Fountains Plaza. Get ready for Sunday Gospel Brunch this Sunday, August 30th at 10:30 a.m. with special guest, Mandate recording artist Men for Christ. The atmosphere will be filled with soulful music while enjoying beautiful outdoor dining in a COVID-compliant atmosphere. Gospel Sunday Brunch will feature family-style servings with much of your favorite breakfast items. For more information about the Sunday Brunch, call 619-782-9155 for reservations. Dial 0. That's Sunday Gospel Brunch this Sunday, August 30th from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The Legacy Resort and Spa is located at 875 Hotel Circle South, San Diego, California, 92108. The brunch is $29 per person with special children's pricing. For more information, call 619-782-9155. Hope to see you there.
This is the San Diego County Registrar of Voters, reminding you to vote safer at home. All registered voters will receive a ballot in the mail for the November 3rd election. Take a moment now to make sure your voter information is up to date so you don't run into any delays in receiving your ballot. Ballots will start going out to voters nearly a month before Election Day. Verify your registration now at sdvote.com.
The San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper is San Diego's oldest and largest African American publication. We bring you news for and about our community. Your stories matter to us. Thank you for allowing us to serve you for nearly 6 decades. Your support enables us to continue to forge ahead, informing you with news tailored to your needs. In addition to subscribing to our weekly publication, consider using Voice and Viewpoint to promote your business and events. Call us at 619-266-2233 or send an email to ads@sdvoice.info for details on how to get started. If you have advertising needs, contact us. Our prices are both fair and reasonable. Follow us on Facebook at www.sdvoice.info www.facebook.com/Voice and Viewpoint or visit our website at www.sdvoice.info. Remember, a people without a voice cannot be heard.
Well, we're back here, and as I said before we left, I said I want to talk about the COVID virus. They say they have a cure, and they are now asking people to be tested for the vaccine. And they said they're having a little issues finding some black people to go get tested. So, Doc, what do you think about that? You ready to go? You ready to go get that test?
Well, we got to put this in a historical perspective, because it's not that black people don't want to live, and we know that we're at risk, but too many black people remember the Tuskegee Experiment, and they remember what they did to us back there almost 100 years ago when the black men had syphilis, and they were told for a whole generation that they were being treated, and they were really being used as guinea pigs to see what the impact of the disease was. And it was, I think, they probably got some exposure before the last one actually died. So we aren't trusting of the government. And then when we had the Economic Opportunity Program of the late 60s and 70s, we had a situation where under that program, women of color, black young women in particular, were being sterilized. They were being told that they were being provided with birth control, and they were actually sterilizing these young women without their permission. And so there's no reason to run and be happy. Now, Dr. Suzanne Lafalo, who is a retired physician from Kaiser and does wonderful ongoing work in the community, she raised it on a Zoom call recently, how we need to be concerned with the extent to which African Americans are included among the test subjects for the disease. For the vaccine, because the vaccine is not going to have the same impact on everyone. And we see this on television when they advertise drugs, that they give side effects, and different people have side effects.
Wait a minute. wait a minute. On TV, I'm sorry, but they try to make the side effects look sexy. And they change the voice and everything. You like say, and they show you just living life, and it's so wonderful. And here comes this voice that may kill you, but you'll live good if it doesn't kill you.
and some side effects may be fatal, but don't worry about that.
Yes, because look at this picture.
Yeah, because they're doing all kind of wonderful things, okay? And, a lot of our parents and grandparents, they got smart, They had all these medicines piled on them. And I remember my late mother-in-law, that she had all these medicines, and my wife tells me how one day her mother just put all this stuff in a bag and threw it in the trash, and she started getting better. She lived to be 90 or 91. But, we got to be, we just got to be careful about how they are setting us up, because I don't want us to believe we still got people who don't want to get shingles shot or the flu vaccine. Look at the people running away from, and this is the time that we should be getting the vaccine right now for this coming flu epidemic, because between the flu and the virus, they're looking at a projected death toll based on the model they have of 250,000 people. So that's another 100,000 people that are almost 80,000 people that are supposed to die between now and December 1st.
And that's the question that comes in, is that who can we trust? And when you live in a nation that everything is suspect because of its history, we have to now, and I tell people this all the time, how do you change the course of history? Is not just protesting, but it's about putting people in position that we can trust. You know what I'm saying? Just like for Christians in office, but let's put people that are truly Christ-like and not just talking the game. See, Republican is not synonymous with Christianity.
No.
Nor is Democrat.
No.
We have to look at every candidate and everybody by the walk that they walk, but we have to also say that sometimes we are trying to make a decision based on, the lesser of two evils.
They would have us make decisions that way. And we had a publication not long ago here in San Diego that used to be distributed on Sunday to African American churches for free. And we had people who would grab that publication before they would grab a copy of the Voice and Viewpoint coming into the church. And yet this was a conservative, right-wing, white Republican group who only advocated the Republican point of view. To show you how racist they were, when my daughter, Chida, wrote a book, a children's book about prayer, which was illustrated, they called to interview her about the book, which was available on Amazon and every place, and asked her would she redo the book and make the characters white. Because they didn't want to take the book, even though churches, Christian churches and schools were taking it, they didn't want to take it with black kids in it. And we need to understand that not all black people are liberal, left-wing, and not all white people who confess that they are conservative. You can tell you how confused they are. They even, through the Pew Foundation, have this definition that there are Christians and they're born-again Christians. And that just tickles me to no event, because I don't know how you can be a Christian without being a born-again Christian. Okay, and so we're being manipulated. And we need to start paying closer attention to the details. There's information out there, but let's not keep trusting everybody to spoon feed us.
Yes, and so let me ask you this. Now, we've talked about a lot of issues. It's school time. The class bell is ringing. Do we go all in, and do we think that we're ready? Because people are going in, and they're suing to get back in, but yet and still, it hasn't been successful for so many people.
Well, it's the ultimate act of stupidity. And one thing Biden said, Vice President Biden made the observation that he would not put the economy over the lives of the people of this country. And that's exactly what's being done. These folks who are rushing to get back and open again, they don't care how many people die as long as it's not in their households. And they're even more comfortable because they've been told that the death rate is going to be higher among people of color. So from America's standpoint, since they no longer need us on the plantation, on the farm and all this, the more of us that die, I keep saying for Donald Trump, the more people die between now and November 3rd, the fewer people there are to vote against him.
Yeah.
And so this is real.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I'm really troubled. I do say that the Unified School District here is going from no longer distant learning, is now online learning.
It should be. It should be online learning, and it is ridiculous to talk about going back into daycare and preschool. One of the things I like about one of the latest rounds of money is that it's got dollars there for daycare, for child care, and child care has some strict standards in terms of what was initially set up. Like you got to have the same kids in the same space each day. You can't take the kids and rotate them and run the risk. We know now that 40% of the children have the virus, and those kids have it. They might be asymptomatic, showing no signs, but they can go home and carry it home to people. And we know that with the evictions and the unemployment, there are more people living in households than there were before. So the risk is greater than that. We have a very serious scenario right here tonight, even as we speak, as this hurricane comes aboard, unlike any before, and people have to make a choice between staying in their homes and maybe being washed away or going into a shelter that's still going to be without social distancing because of how critical the need is for space and getting infected. So these are serious times, and we need to just get serious about how can we help each other through this.
And we're going to need leadership, but we're also going to definitely need to lean on our prayer life, because while there is this weather taking place in one part of the nation, we're actually being consumed by fire on the West Coast.
We've had over 10,000 lightning strikes, over 500 fires burning in California, people coming in from neighboring states to help us. And you know what? I tell my congregation as a pastor that you need to look at this and understand what is happening. I'm not going to blame God for everything, because the system tries to say every disaster is an act of God. That's the only time they put that in insurance clause. But if you go back in the Bible and look at what happened to Job's kids, it was not an act of God that collapsed the house on them if you read chapter 1.
Amen.
It was Satan got permission to go after Job's family, and he sent the storm and collapsed and killed the kids. So, you know, the God of this air, we need to get prayer back in the agenda, because prayer is what's going to bring the vaccine release. Prayer is what's going to upset the scenario that we have in the White House, which is a violation and a reminder of Ephesians 6:12, wrestling against not flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness, principalities, the rulers of the darkness of this world. That's what we're up against.
And so I want to just encourage people to understand this. Yes, we all have our opinions. Yes, some people like the current administration. Some people don't like the current administration. The one thing that we will end is saying this: you must vote. It is something that we need everybody, and everybody's voice need to be heard, and we need to do it in a very protective sense, because if we do not take this time to value our vote and don't let somebody else deliver our vote, but we deliver our vote ourselves, we don't wait, we don't procrastinate. It's just like the census. I tell people, look, y'all can feel what you want about the census. Census came on, I saw it, census came, I sat there and filled it out right there on the spot, done.
Right there.
It took me, 5-10 minutes?
Yes.
And I was done.
Yes.
You know, it's not that hard, but we have to say, and this is what I tell people, do not complain if you don't get involved.
That's right. You got to get involved. And if you can stand in line at Popeyes to get a chicken sandwich.
A long line.
Yeah, long lines for a chicken sandwich just because of a commercial.
That ain't all that good.
And it wasn't that good. If you can get all worked up at Walmart because of somebody's sweet potato pie and wait in line for that, you can
and then you know when it's good as mama's.
And yes, so you can certainly get involved and make use of your vote and do something worthwhile, both for you, your family, your household, and your whole life. Because if you blow it on this census, we got 10 years of being left out. Hey, and that's real.
You know, maybe we should have it say, if you get your census in, you get a chicken sandwich. And if you take your vote, we'll give you a sweet potato pie.
Well, maybe we can get Chick-fil-A and Patti LaBelle to provide the pies and the and the chicken sandwich, and maybe we'll get more votes.
Yeah, because to me, I just thought it was a brilliant marketing campaign, and literally, honestly, I actually think that Chick-fil-A came up with it.
They probably might have.
Because at the end of the day, people compared them, so they had to still buy a Chick-fil-A to compare them.
You still have to do that.
And then when Popeyes ran out, Chick-fil-A was like, but we still good.
And you know, Chick-fil-A is a believing Bible-based owned business.
Yes.
Which is very serious.
Yeah.
And so that's important. There's a little more to In-N-Out Burger putting John 3:16 on the bottom of the cup.
Amen.
Okay, because there's more to it than that.
Yes, sir.
And so we get that prayer life. If we go off the air here, I'm going to invite you again to get your prayer life together. I'm going to invite you on Sundays. If you don't have any worship connection, you can pick up your phone and dial this number, 1-720-835-5909. That's an Uber Conference open line for Eagles Nest Christian Center. The PIN number is 27346. There's a Bible study online from 9 until 10:30 or 10:45, and then we have a message coming on at 11 that deals with where you are and what you are confronted with, and it is an interactive opportunity in terms of worship. And if you don't have to go down the street, all you have to do is sit down and pick up your phone and dial in, turn on the speaker, mute the phone, listen, get your Bible, get some notes, and let God help get you through this crisis.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, Dr. Warren, we're at the end of our time, and as always, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. God say the same. We will be back next week right here on GOD Radio 1 on the